Okay, so let me talk to you about it. With the number one pick in the draft, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves. I believe their big board looks like this: trade for Ben Simmons or draft center James Wiseman out of Memphis. I believe the T-Wolves want someone that can help them win now. Veteran power forward James Johnson is overpaid compared to his production. Rookie wingman or second-year wingman Josh Okogie and Jarrett Culver seem to have good upside, and I believe they will fit well with the Stars D. Russ and Big Cat. My prediction: they will trade for Ben Simmons, and Philly with the first pick will draft LaMelo Ball. Now here's my logic. D. Russ has stated how he would like to play off the ball more. He is more comfortable being a scorer that can pass well versus being obligated with getting everybody else involved. Karl Anthony Towns has no front court support since gorgeous Jang was traded away, and James Johnson doesn't seem to really draw enough attention to fill that role next to him properly. Philly is having trouble getting their two stars, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, to play well together. Simmons would actually be an ideal fit with the Minnesota team. His reluctancy to shoot combined with his willingness to pass the ball and play defense will be just what the T-Wolves need. I mean, especially being that Ben Simmons has been to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? He's proven he's elite in the areas that he does, contribute in. So that's going to work, all right? Now, Philly, who will most likely get bounced from the first round this year by Boston, will look to want to pair a young facilitator with their franchise big man. LaMelo Ball will seem to be an ideal fit. I mean, between the T-Wolves' potential $50 million in cap space and the 76ers need to replace Simmons at the point guard position, these teams could be able to make something work if they're willing. All right, backup plan, like I say, draft James Wiseman and pair with Karl Anthony Towns. Now, some people will say, why would they do that? Like I was saying earlier, their roster really only has D. Russell, Jarrett Culver, Josh Okogie, and Karl Anthony Towns. They have a second-year man, Jacob Evans, a third-year man, I believe. They have Jake Layman, who I believe is really up for free agency, and so is James Johnson. So, I mean, with the uncertainty of when the offseason actually will start and who's actually going to be a free agent and what the money is to sign people, I'll believe that Minnesota is going to take the pick that not only gives them a need, but actually gives them a potential third star. So, like I say, Minnesota will either trade for Ben Simmons. Unless Philly is unwilling to trade, then they'll draft James Wiseman with the first pick in the 2020 draft. With the number 2 pick in the 2020 NBA draft, we have the Golden State Warriors. And I believe Golden State big boards looks like this: draft center James Wiseman from Memphis, or trade for a young vet center, or draft center Onyeka Okongwu from USC. This is my logic. The 3-time NBA champs are not rebuilding. They are retooling. This past season was their off year per se, and they still have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and after a blockbuster mid-season trade, they have Andrew Wiggins. Now, Golden State front office raves about Wiggins, but they did the same thing about D. Russ. So I am of the belief that they will draft Wiseman. The addition of Wiseman and Wiggins will make them automatic title contenders in the West. But if Wiseman is off the board, I could see the Golden State Warriors shopping Wiggins and a number 2 pick for a few big men. First option, I believe, would be Joel Embiid. Let's say Philly decides they would rather build around Ben Simmons than Joel Embiid. Philly would be in a prime position to trade for Wiggins and a number 2 pick. I would assume then that Philly would draft guard Anthony Edwards. Pairing Simmons with Wiggins, Edwards, Tobias Harris, and veteran Al Horford would be an ideal retool for the semi-struggling 76ers. Now, option number 2. They could trade for Steven Adams. Let's say Wiseman is off the board and they trade for Embiid breaks down. The Golden State Warriors could call up Sam Presti and offer Andrew Wiggins and a number 2 pick for Steven Adams. Steven Adams is a very skilled and dominating presence in the paint. His game is a lot more well-rounded than he is given credit for, and his personality would mesh well with the Golden State organization. Steph, Clay, Draymond, and Steven Adams will make the Warriors a defensive and offensive nightmare. The Thunder, on the other hand, are clearly rebuilding. They have been successful this year by the standard of clinching the third spot in the Western Conference playoff standings. They would welcome Wiggins playing alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with CP3 quarterbacking the team. This will put the Thunder in an interesting position. I believe it is unlikely they are able to move CP3's heavy contract, who is due about $85 million over the next 2 seasons. So if this does happen, I would assume that the Thunder would then draft for Obi Toppin to replace Adams. Toppin would give CP3 a familiar skill set option in the paint. The Thunder still have Nerlens Noel, who could fill the defensive void at center. Obi Toppin will provide an offensive paint presence. With Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Andrew Wiggins on the wings, OKC would look real good with a mixture of youth and experience. Now, here's my third option. Andre Drummond. Now, this is the most left field scenario I could find logical. If the Golden State Warriors are adamant about not picking at number 2, they could call the Cavaliers about their paint-dominant midseason acquisition center Andre Drummond. Drummond would be more or less the same as getting Steven Adams. The key piece of information in this, though, is the Cavs get the number 2 pick, and it would be seemingly awkward to send Wiggins back to the Cavs, pairing him with Kevin Love, who were traded for each other back in 2014 when Andrew was picked number 1 overall by the Cavaliers organization. I'm not sure if Wiggins will be welcome to a trade or even willing to play with Kevin Love or the Cavaliers. But if this trade were to happen, the Cavs will be in a better position to rebuild properly. Having number 2 and number 5 pick in this draft, this trade would definitely shake up the draft board. But the backup plan, if trade is not available and Wiseman is off the board, then I believe Golden State would draft center Onyeka Okongwu from USC. Okongwu with Kevin Looney, Marquise Chris, Eric Paschal would probably be a welcome rotation of big men that could pair or, be moved around Draymond Green, because Draymond could play the 2, the 3, 4, 5. All right. And what they have, that would be probably the next safest pick if they are adamant about not keeping the pick. So again, I say, number 1, they want to draft James Wiseman. Number 2, they would probably want to trade for a dominant paint presence. Or number 3, they'll take the center from USC. With the number 3 overall selection in the NBA 2020 draft, we have the Charlotte Hornets. I believe the Charlotte Hornets big board look like this. Draft LaMelo Ball or draft Obi Toppin. Charlotte, oh Charlotte. This team took a major blow losing Kemba Walker to the Celtics in free agency last season. But the Hornets have a young core that could really use a prolific maestro. I believe LaMelo Ball fits the bill. His star power will provide a much-needed national spotlight for the team and market. I really doubt that Michael Jordan will pass up on Ball if he is there, and I believe he will be. LaMelo Ball is going to the Hornets. Backup plan. If LaMelo Ball is off the board when it's Charlotte's turn to pick, I don't think they will hesitate to take Obi Toppin at number 3. Obi Toppin will provide a paint scoring presence that the Hornets haven't had since the 90s. Obi Toppin with PJ Washington, Miles Bridges, Malik Monk, and Terry Rozier would make them undersized, but that young core will be very promising. All right. With the number 4 overall selection in the NBA 2020 draft, we have the Chicago Bulls. I think it's interesting in this draft that the team that Michael Jordan owns get the 3rd pick, and the team that made him famous got the pick right behind him. Very interesting. But for the Chicago Bulls, I believe their draft board looks like this. Draft LaMelo Ball or draft Denny Adija, or trade the pick and Otto Porter Jr. All right. The Chicago Bulls are very interesting right now. They have a team full of talent, but they seem to be missing a piece that brings all that talent together properly. I believe they need a true facilitator. LaMelo Ball will fit that role perfectly. Chicago is a young team with a lot of scores and no true passing savant. Having Chris Dunn, Kobe White, Thomas Satoransky already on the roster could make the backcourt competition too crowded. Nonetheless, LaMelo has the star power and true point guard instincts to really bring that core together. Now, if LaMelo is already off the board, or the organization has issues with drafting Ball because of all the tension he would bring, they would seem to be disruptive. Plus, it's possible that the front office people do not want to deal with LeVar Ball. You could see the Bulls draft Israel small forward Deni Avdija. Though he's a small forward, he can pass, shoot, and play defense. Chicago has good scorers in the front and backcourts already. Avdija could be the perfect piece to come in and fill that void at small forward that they seems to be desperately coveting. All right, backup plan. Let's say the Bulls don't want any player there and they will want to trade. I think it is possible they could call the Thunder and offer Otto Porter, Chris Dunn, and a number 4 pick for Chris Paul. I know that would be crazy, right? I mean, crazy. But just think about this. CP3 is at the end of his role and still has a lot of good basketball left in him. I think the Bulls would take on the massive CP3 contract because they could get a future pick for that to go along with what they traded away. Plus CP3, Zach LaVine, Otto Porter Jr., Lauri Markkanen, and Wendell Carter Jr. will make up a solid lineup and probably make a lot of noise in the East. That future draft pick would definitely come in handy later on, when CP3 is, retiring, his contract up or whatever the case, they could do a number of things. So, like I say, I think they will look to draft LaMelo Ball. If Ball is not there, they will definitely look to draft Deni Avdija. And if not, I could see them trading Otto Porter Jr. and that pick to get some type of veteran to come in there and really help that team out.